A very good morning to everyone present here today. Quote, it's time to start something new and trust the magic of new beginnings. Unquote, Anonymous. This quote resonates with why we are gathered here today. To mark a new beginning and a new venture at our eminent institution. Today we commemorate the launch of the Mediation and Debating Society of CfPS Law School. Like they always say, all great things start with a vision. But more specifically, this venture was the brainchild of two people, two individuals who foresaw a discrepancy, the absence of a platform to build up the necessary advocacy, analytical, and research skills required in the legal profession. As the legal job market gets tougher and more competitive, this club will act as the indispensable bridge, bridging the gap between the law student and the law professional. With that being said, I would like to invite Ms. Navira Pereira and Mr. Jonathan Cruz to address the gathering.
Distinguished guest of honor, Mr. Salia Pilis, Chief Guest, Mr. Shami Zawahir, Director of International Programs and Student Affairs, Ms. Manuri Pilis, and the rest of the management, lecturers, executive committee members of other law schools present, and students of CfPS. A very good morning to everyone joining us on this very important occasion today. We will try to keep this short, although we feel we have to give you all the entire picture of how the launch of the Mooting, Mediation, and Debating, for short, the MMDS of CfPS Law School, came into being today. Let us first start by saying that almost after a year, it is absolutely heartening to see the official launch of the MMDS finally happening today. Although Jonathan and I are called co-founders, it is important to note that students of CfPS have represented the Institute in both domestic and international competitions and gone on to perform well way back before we joined in 2019. We've been told that there had been, in fact, past moot court societies, which we unfortunately were not witness to when we joined, and which for some reason along the way was broken down. In this sense, won't this just be a relaunch of a previous established society? We'd like to think no.
The plan to launch a society was firstly taken as a project by the Student Council and Rotary Club of CfPS Law School. So as Navira represents the former and I the latter, we had three main goals in mind. Firstly, as the name suggests, we want students to experience debating and mediation in addition to mooting. Secondly, we of course want to ensure that this society will continue to stay years after we leave CfPS. To do that, we institutionalize the process of selecting students for competitions, share all competitions among students to bring it to their awareness, and liaise with the management to provide professional coaching to the selected students. Thirdly, and this is related to what I mentioned earlier, after today, the plan is to further strengthen the interest in the three areas among students by providing training on a monthly basis. The reason behind this is particularly due to the fact that CfPS is a place that does not restrict a person based on their age. We have standard entry students and graduate entry students, out of which this latter group are those who are doing law as possibly their second or third degree, and are hence already working. Such students mostly would not have the time to fully dedicate themselves for competitions, which, as most of you all know already, require a lot of time and effort. Hence, by having training on a monthly basis, such students who might not be able to take part in competitions can still get to know the procedure and try out for internal competitions scheduled to be held within CfPS. In essence, we want to establish a society where the focus is to help build skills among students that will help them in practice.
This launch is long overdue. It was meant to happen last year, if not for COVID-19. Jonathan and I initially felt that it was imperative. It was a physical launch, since understanding that the reason for mooting to not be present when we joined was a possibility that there was a lack of interest among students. And this was not because people didn't or don't like mooting, but because they didn't know what it was to begin with. Despite not launching, however, we sent out students for whatever competitions that we did find out. And during this entire process, we experienced the potential of students that CfPS wielded and started to see an interest among each batch to try it out. Seeing the number of students joining us today, it's evident that there is in fact an active interest among the students to learn and better themselves. This interest is very important for something like mooting, mediation, and debating, because you are always required to work as a team.
Fast forward to September 2021, we realized we had to launch the club before either of us leaves CfPS. So although we would have loved to have a physical launch, we decided to go ahead with an online one. None of this would have been possible if not for Mrs. Manori Pires, whose support was readily given to us in matters of mooting, mediation, and debating at all times. Ma'am, we apologize for bothering you with consistent calls and emails, and we greatly appreciate everything you've done for us.
Lastly, to the group of individuals who now bear the executive positions of the MMDS and who have been tirelessly working to ensure that the launch is a success, we are positive that each of you will make us proud and wish you all the very best. Without further ado then, we warmly welcome you all to the launch of MMDS. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the rest of today's proceedings.
Thank you, Ms. Pereira and Mr. Cruz, for those valuable words. Now to introduce the brains and bronze of this magnolious vision, it is none other than the Executive Committee of the Mediation and Debating Society for CfPS Law School for the years 2021 and 2022.
Presenting the Executive Committee of the CfPS Law School MMDS. Coordinator Sajishnavan Sivachandra Devan. Editor Dakshin Abekon. Treasurer Tiranya Ranasinghe. Secretary Tarushi Veerasinghe. President Vivendra Ratnayaka.
The MMDS How-To Guides were the contravenience of this year's Executive Committee. This How-To Guide is recommended for both novice and intermediate public speakers alike. To formally launch the MMDS guides, I would like to invite the Secretary of the MMDS, Tarushi Veerasinghe, to give insight to what is in store.
A very good morning to all our guests. It is with great pleasure that we, the Mooting, Mediation and Debating Society of CfPS Law School, present the CfPS MMDS Handbook. This how-to guide will take students through the procedures involved in mooting, mediation, and debate, while also guiding them on research and oral advocacy procedures. The book consists of 3 parts, focusing on each limb of the society, and will act as the student's first point of reference upon joining the MMDS. The book was compiled by the Executive Committee of the MMDS with support from APIT MD MMS President Umar Safras, and consists of expertise from other prestigious universities and individuals who are well versed in the art of moot. We trust that the students will find this publication to be of exemplary assistance in their journey through the activities of the MMDS. In eloquence, we discourse.
Thank you, Tarushi. Now to introduce our guest of honor. He is the current president of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. He was the first chairperson of the Office on Missing Persons, an institution created to aid in Sri Lanka's reconciliation mechanism. He holds a master's degree in international business law from the University of West London. He is an Eisenhower Fellow and an alumni of the DWP program and the IBLP in Switzerland and the United States of America, respectively. I cordially invite President's Counsel, Mr. Sadia Pires, to address the gathering.
Members of the Executive Committee and the office bearers of the Mooting, Mediation and Debating Society of CfPS Law School, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me to be the guest of honor at this program. And I want to commend all of you for your effort in setting up this society. The mooting is a very important aspect of being a law student. It is important because it helps you to build the necessary skills to prepare you when you appear in court. And we know that today mediation is also an important aspect of law, of dispute resolution. And in the future, many matters, many commercial matters would have to be resolved through negotiation, through mediation. And as such, it is very important that students, that law students gain the necessary skills required to mediate and to negotiate. So my mind goes back to 1992. In 1992, in my apprentice year at Sri Lanka Law College, I recall that was some of the earliest times when mooting was done. There was a triangular mooting competition. There weren't so many institutions as now. There were only 3 institutions which would train law students, and that was the faculty. That was the faculty of the university, law faculty of the University of Colombo, the legal division of the Open University of Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka Law College. And I recall that there was a triangular moot competition organized by the law faculty, by the Center for Human Rights of Law Faculty. And there were in all 3 media, in Sinhala, Indians. And so we had the privilege at that time of being judged. The English moot was judged by Justice Mark Fernando, Mr. Lakshman Kadirgama, President's Counsel, and Mr. Faiz Mustafa. And so this was 1992, nearly 30 years ago. And I had the privilege of representing Law College at both the Sinhala and English moots. And among those in our debating, in our competition, in our moot team, today our students, 2 of them who are now on the Supreme Court bench, Justice Anjuno Besekara and Justice Janak De Silva. So what I wish to tell you is, what you do here today, the mooting you do, will help you to build your skills when you go into court. Mooting is important because it helps you, it will develop the art, the science of appearing in court and of your delivery in court. Or mooting, as in court, is all about advocacy, about how you convince someone. So mooting involves your ability to convince the judges, those who are judging the moot. And in court too, what is more, a counsel needs to convince the judge, to bring the judge to his point of view through his skills, through his advocacy skills. And those are the skills which you will try to sharpen through mooting. And that is of absolute importance. Unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, we still don't have a very structured way. Our institutions don't have a structured way of ensuring that points or marking is given. But I know that certain places, certain universities have started certain courses. For instance, the University of Peradeniya has a course on, I believe it is called the Art of Advocacy. So this is something which we have to sharpen. This is absolutely important. And I'm sure the Mooting, Mediation and Debating Society of CfPS Law School, I was able to see, glance through the handbook which you produced. And I think it is commendable that you're putting all this effort to into inaugurating the society. And let me wish you every success. It is through participation and through involvement in these activities that you sharpen your skills. Sharpening these skills are absolutely important. They are as important as studying for your examinations. It helps you to know people, how to deal with people, get to know how you handle difficult situations, and what you do in times of when you are under pressure. These will help you. The mooting will help you to build those skills. So let me wish you all the best and congratulate you on this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hopping on the topic of the MMDS how-to guides, to present the formal review for the how-to guides, we have a very special guest in our midst. She is an attorney at law and has an LLM in International Commercial Law and International Corporate Law from the University of West London. She is none other than the Director of International Programs and Student Affairs for CfPS Law School, Mrs. Manori Pires. I cordially invite Madam Pires to share her thoughts on the how-to guides.
Yes, thank you. I must say a very big thank you to Vivendra and his team for starting the MMDS. And I also must say that I'm very proud because the initiative had come from the students. There was no, we didn't tell the students. There was initially a mooting society some years back, but after a few years, students didn't continue the good work the previous people had done. So I think the starting of the MMDS now the initiative solely came from the students. So I'm really happy and proud, and I must say a very big thank you to Vivendra and his team. I have been asked to do a small on the how to guide the handbook given. But before going into the handbook, I thought I'll just state the achievements by the students in mooting and debating. And especially we have a mediation round also. So I thought that it will be an encouragement to students who have not taken part in any of these competitions to take part in future. The moot court bench, we have had a mediation round in 2021. And the CfPS included Shahina, Daneka, and Misandi, and Dharani Vitaranage on the distinction for relationship building. And Anuji had just passed out. Anuji had represented CFP's Exception 8, Team 2, and she had won the best opening statement with her teammates. And we also have taken part in the Sir John Kutalavala Memorial Moot competition, and Tarushi emerged as the best oratorist for the appellant statement. We also have taken part in the criminal law moot competition. I think that is one of the first moots relating to criminal law we have had. Also, the Sri Lanka Universities debating competitions. Our Tamil debating team emerged championships. And the team consists of Ashwin Balendran. You have to pardon me for the pronunciation. I think it's Sajis Vanan and Mayura. Those were the students who took part in the Tamil debating competition. Then also there was a constitutional law moot, which was organized by the Faculty of Law, which we took part. And we also took part in a which was organized by the moot court bench. this Rukaya emerged as the runner-up for the most promising speaker at the International Commercial Arbitration Program. This moot coach bench also organized, there is another moot which the students are hoping to take part next year. That is the John and Jackson moot competition, I think, which is to be held in America. 3 teams are taking part, and they were downlisted from so many, I think 40 odd candidates. Only 3 teams were selected. One is from the law faculty, one is from the Sri Lanka Law College, the other one is a CfPS team. So I think we have come a long way from where we have started. So I encourage the students who have not taken part in any of the competitions to join the MMDS and take part in this mooting and debating and mediation competitions. I also must say, as Mr. Piri stated, the students have prepared a handbook, how to guide important points which relating to mooting, debating, and mediation. It's a very comprehensive handbook. They have gone to a lot of trouble in preparing the handbook. When I was just glancing through it, I noticed that even small points, like they had taken the trouble to mention small points like take a printout of the mooting problem before you start preparing for it. So it's if you read through it, a student will get a very comprehensive guidance on how to prepare for these competitions. And they have done very extensive research. They have included databases like Westlaw, Hein Online, Just, and all those databases also I saw included in that handbook. So if you read the handbook, you will have a very clear guidance when taking part in these competitions. And I must say a very big thank you to the MMDS group team for preparing that. I know you would have gone through a lot of trouble, spend a lot of time, your energy on preparing that handbook. So once again, a very big thank you to Vivendra and his team and all those who helped in preparing the handbook in relation to all these competitions. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Now to introduce the chief guest for today. He has a bachelor's in law from the University of London. He is an attorney at law specializing in corporate and commercial law. He is a lecturer at our very own CfPS Law School. He is a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. Furthermore, he serves as the coordinating secretary and the director of the Justice Sector Reform Program to the Ministry of Justice. I would like to invite Mr. Shamil Zawahir, our chief guest for today, to address the gathering.
Thank you very much. Mr. Salia Pires, President's Counsel, Ms. Manori Pires, President of the MMDS, committee members and office bearers, and my dear students. Firstly, I would like to say thank you for having me today as your chief guest. It is indeed an honor and a privilege. And I must say, watching the first bit of this program, how impressed I am with the level of work that has gone in and just how professional you have done it so far. And this initiative is excellent, I must say. And I am absolutely impressed with the fact that you took the initiative. You have approached the administration of CfPS and you have come out with this handbook. I'm looking forward to reading it. And you put this together over Zoom. Now, I have had sort of the privilege or the happy experience of coaching some of you for moots. And over the years, I've realized that CfPS has been producing some extremely talented people and mooters. And we have been achieving good results. Now, mooting, debating, and mediation are three very interesting areas that will most certainly go a long way. I was asked if I could give a small introduction to the three different areas, and if I can speak to you about how my experience in mooting and debating and mediation has helped me to get where I am. Now, my introduction to mooting was at Sri Lanka Law College. And at that time, only Law College and the University of Colombo had access to proper moot competitions and so on and so forth. It was not something which was widely sort of accessible if you weren't in the system at that point. But I'm very happy to see that now that there are more accessible moot competitions, a multitude of them actually, because at the time that I was there, there were very few. If you take the Oxford International Moot, we had the ICRC moot, we had JESUP, and we had also things like the Forest Moston Client Counseling competition. I represented the Sri Lankan teams in all these moots, and I captained them, and we had very good results. I'm happy to say for the Law College teams back then, and I'm extremely happy that this is now much wider than it was then. And because of that, there is a much better quality of mooters that are coming into the mooting system. And it's made the whole thing more competitive and more exciting. Now, in terms of where it has helped me and how it has helped me, the competitions I took part in were extremely interesting, and it was a new experience. There was travel involved, but more so than that, it taught me a few very important lessons that I carry even today in the practice. One of the things you learn in mooting and any of these team-based sports or team-based competitions is you learn the fact that you need to prepare early. Mooting is not something that you can sort of roll up on the day and sort of think completely on your feet and manage to win. It's not something like that. It requires you to understand the problem. It requires you to put in the time, the effort to study it, to find out where your weak arguments, your strong arguments are, and be unselfish in dividing them amongst your teammates, and also be sure to work together towards a common goal and find out your strings of arguments. Now, that level of teamwork will help you when you come into the practice, because it allows you to work with your chambers. It allows you to work with other lawyers who are supporting you on cases. And it also teaches you that you need to prepare. Now, at the time I did mooting, I thought that it was something that I would do, I found interesting. And then when I moved out of law college and got into the practice, that it would have absolutely no real life application or skills. Or maybe I thought it will have a little bit of real life application or skills, but it certainly wouldn't sort of help me much. And I think years down the line, I have been proven wrong, because preparation for a moot and arguing at a moot, the level of priority of arguments, the submissions that you make are essentially identical to what you would in a court. The law college moots, even the local competitions, used to have actual briefs, and they still do have actual briefs from appeals and cases. So what you're doing when you're preparing for that moot is, years before you get your first brief, you are preparing to make submissions in a case. There is nothing else like it. There is nothing which will give you. In addition to that, I was also asked to speak to you and give you an insight as to what the different areas are in the MMDS. Now, I spoke to you about mooting and about how it has helped me and how it will help you, and the real life application that it has, and it gives you the ability to do a case before you get to do a case and do oaths. But let me just explain or just talk to you a little bit about the different types of sort of competitions and the mooting and debating and mediation that the MMD has, and what the differences in the three are. Right, let's start off with debating. I think that's the one that's most familiar to all of you. All of us have seen at school a debate, which is two teams who are given an argument. Usually it's proposing or opposing. So you take one of the two sides of an argument, and then you spend time trying to, you spend the competition or you spend the debate trying to prove your side of that specific argument, right? It's very straightforward. So your argument can be something in economic policy. Maybe exports should be taxed, or this house proposes. Now, what you're used to in school debating was usually it was a 4-member team where all four of you speak, one side speaks, the other side speaks, and there are 2 rebuttal speeches. But at the level now, debating, when it comes to the university and professional level, the rules are slightly different. It's very familiar. So it will start with some, the topic will be this house proposes, right? So they're basically parliamentary style debates is very popular, where the topic will be this house proposes. So you have 2 sides, one side for, one side against. So they will make the arguments, they're called arguments. And then the other side makes the arguments. And depending on the rules, there are right of reply or reply speeches or rebuttals, right? So debating is very similar to what you would know as school-based debating, but the depending on the competition, the number of debaters would change, the minor rules would change. There are points of order. So it is phrased most popularly in the format of what parliament would be like, parliamentary style debates. So you could raise a point, and you could ask the other side to raise a question, and you can use it as an opportunity to give an answer, and so on as well. So it's like a parliamentary style debate. It's very interesting. And then you are judged based on certain criteria that's laid out on speaking style, on ability to rebut, and the points that you made, your ability to answer questions, all of it. So that is how debating works. And it is at this level, at the competitive level of universities, it's very interesting. And it is more technical, because if you're used to school-based debating, it's not very technical. It is just sort of an open-ended 5 minutes given per person, and you go on and on. But parliamentary style debating and the rules that apply to the different styles, it's a little bit more technical. You need to know the rules, you need to know the timings, you need to know how to raise points of order, so on and so forth, right? And it is certainly a very exciting, debates are very exciting. They are more fast-paced, they are faster, they go at a higher pace, they're more argumentative, there's back and forth, because you raise it, you ask a question, you reply the question, you can be aggressive, because you're essentially in a debate. There is the judging panel, but it's a sort of a battle between the two sides. A debate is a battle directly between the two sides. So you're putting your point, the other side is attacking it. You're trying to counterattack it. So that is the general approach or the mindset of how a debate works, right? Now, let's move on to mediation, which is a completely different approach. Now, along with mediation, you will also realize that there are some client counseling competitions. Let me come to that later. But mediation is a completely different take on dispute resolution. So they are known in the larger scheme. If you take the main court system, things like arbitration and mediation are known as ADRs, which is alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. They were created and they are looked at being faster than a court, more binding or less hassling for the parties, and cheaper in the long run. So mediation is essentially where the two parties, if you take a real life and you take a competition, two parties would go to a mediator, The mediator is an independent third party who will discuss with the parties, and his task is to arrive at an amicable settlement that works for both parties, right? So in contrast to debating, where the whole gist of it is fight, 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 attack, counter attack, and get your point through, mediation is more or less the polar opposite. What you're trying to do is minimize the aggression and minimize the fighting factor. You are trying to get the parties to settle, to find the common strengths of the two and see where you can balance it out. So a mediator will say, he will give, he'll make his opening statements. He will ask the parties to make their sort of take on the dispute for one side or the other side. Then he will spend individual time with them, with those parties, and attempt to find where their strength, confidentially, where their strengths and weaknesses of their arguments are. And then he'll talk to the other side and do that. And then he will try to get the parties to arrive at a solution. So as a mediator, your task is to find and convince the parties that these are the strong points and these are the weak points of your case. So let's arrive at a settlement where both of you are agreeable. See, it's difficult to solve a dispute where both sides are extremely happy, because you have a dispute because you are not happy with the problem. But your target is to make both sides come to the realization that you can't have everything. And also, if you were to go to court, there is the risk of winning versus losing. Whereas in a mediation, the outcome is faster, it's confidential. Court proceedings are typically a bit public. It's faster, confidential, it's cheaper because you don't spend years in court, and the parties are going to walk away from the table feeling that they weren't steamrolled or they weren't attacked, because in a court case, you have the losing side, you might get whacked with costs and so on. So in a mediation competition, your approach to it is a very much more find the common ground, right? So you will learn more in detail as the training goes on, but I wanted to explain to you how a mediation works. Then we come to the one I spoke at the outset, the main one, which is mooting. The moot is basically just like a real court case. Typically, it would be held in the level of a superior court. If it's local, it's an appeal, or there are arbitration moots and there are international law moots. But essentially, a moot is not in an original court, so there's no evidence and leading witnesses and so on. The facts are there on both sides. The facts are agreed on. So the two sides have to convince the judge to grant them the relief. Now, how is this different from debating? How it differs is because in a moot, you are not again fighting directly with the other side. You are trying to convince the judge or the panel of judges that your take on the law is correct, right? So if there is a bunch, there are facts that are to the sides, they will find the arguments based on those facts, the law, and in a moot, the difference between a moot and a debate, and again even more so mediation, moots are generally very aggressive. You're not there screaming and trying to sort of shoot down everything the other side said, because this is not a head-to-head battle with the parties, right? It is a battle. It's a sort of a more tactical, focused, targeted battle with the judge to convince the judge that your take on the facts and how the law applies is correct as opposed to the other side. So in a moot, you are looking at proving your case through case law, through statute, and through directions depending on the type of moot, and convincing the judge, and you're making submissions to the judge, and you're praying for the judge to grant you the relief or the order or the decision in your favor. So if you take the styles of doing the three of them, they are very different to each other. There are three different targets and aims. So depending on that, you will have to adjust just how vocal or aggressive your approach is. And on the stronger arguments, you may want to spend more time backing it up better, you have to prioritize the levels of arguments in terms of how strong and how much water they hold, so to speak. So mooting, as I said, is a replication or a sort of an appearance or a style of how a courthouse or how a judge and the lawyers will work with the judge to prove their case, right? So those are the three different areas that are covered in the MMDS that I was asked to speak to you about. But I believe the MMDS will also take on things like client counseling competitions when they come along, which essentially involves you dealing with the client and how you can get the problem out of the client and give them the best advice. These are all come under the sort of the umbrella of competitions which are closely connected and work towards training lawyers and sort of reproduce the lawyer client or the lawyer judge experience, right? And of course, as we go along, I'm certain that you're in very capable hands. The executive committee will, as you said, have training sessions and guide you. And there are lots of resource persons in Sri Lanka that you can use for the different types of law. And even for mooting, it's not going to be something you're going to struggle to find resources because we have some great resources here. And I'm looking forward to seeing the CfPS team coming out on top consistently. And I'm indeed very proud of the students who have achieved so much. And I have seen just how hard they work. They asked me for assistance on one of the moots, and they worked extremely hard, even your president. And they are definitely on the ball and they know what they're doing. And I have no doubt whatsoever that they will sort of push CfPS to the forefront. And as someone who has been lecturing at CfPS for, I think this is my 12th year now, it makes me so happy to see just how far CfPS and its student body has come from the time that we started or over a decade ago. And now we are competing with everybody and we are doing such a great job in areas like this. With that, I will come to a close. I just wish to say all the best to the president, the executive committee, and all of you in your endeavors in the coming weeks, months, and years. And I wish you all the very best. And once again, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mrs. Zawahir, for your guidance and well wishes. Now, I would like to introduce the batch representatives of the MMDS for the years 2021 and 2022.
Presenting the batch representatives of the CfPS Law School MMDS. First year batch representative Nidarshanan Sivabalasundram. First year batch representative Karavitage Malin Kaushika. Second year batch representative Pyumi Bhattuheva.
As a new society, outreach is of utmost importance to us. Please direct your attention to the infomercial on our social media pages to see how you can connect and receive updates on all future events planned by the MMDS. As our launch comes closer to the end, I would like to call upon the president of the Mooting, Mediation and Debating Society, Vivendra Ratnayakar, to deliver the vote of thanks.
A very good morning to you all. Mr. Shamil Sawahir, our chief guest this morning, Mrs. Sadia Piris, our esteemed guest of honor, Ms. Manori Piris, a Director of International Studies and Student Affairs at CfPS Law School, our most valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of the Mooting, Mediation and Debating Society and the entire student body fraternity of CfPS Law School, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to everyone gracing our event here today. I would like to take this opportunity to wholeheartedly extend my thanks to Mr. Shamil Sawahir, our distinguished chief guest for today. Thank you, sir, for taking time off your busy schedule to grace this occasion, and your words of encouragement were truly an inspiration to us all. I would like to express our sincere thanks to Mrs. Sadia Piris, our esteemed guest of honor today. Dear sir, we are grateful for both your presence and your words of wisdom, which always seems to inspire and motivate us. A big thank you to Ms. Manori Piris, our Director of International Programs and Student Affairs, for her never-ending support and guidance, without which we would not have been able to have an event of this significance. Thank you, madam. I'm also grateful to all the support and help given to the MMDS by our two founding members, Ms. Navira Pereira and Mr. Jonathan Cruz. We are thankful for all the efforts made by the two of you to establish such a prestigious club and to promise to maintain its standards in the years to come. I would like to express our sincere thanks to all our lecturers at CfPS Law School for their presence here today. It is indeed a strength to us all. I would also like to acknowledge our gratitude to both the Students' Council and the Rotary Club of the CfPS Law School for their help and support in making this event a success. Well, ladies and gentlemen, an event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling a few weeks ago. It requires ardent planning and attention to detail unlike no other. I was fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues with a do-or-die attitude and a great sense of humor. I cannot thank everyone enough for their involvement and their willingness to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. Maybe not all deadlines were met, however, we had a year to work on it. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for being with us this morning, and it has indeed been a great pleasure. And of course, always remember, in eloquence, we discourse. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Vivendra. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the beginning. I echo Vivendra's thanks to everyone that helped to make this event a success. And we look forward to collaborating with you all for the upcoming year. And with that, the Mooting, Mediation and Debating Society of CfPS Law School is officially launched. In eloquence, we discourse. Thank you.